Hey guys, what's up? It's Danielle. So welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I thought I would talk about how I save money on groceries and just a couple of disclaimers. Number one, I have my fan on, and if it bothers you, I apologize, but it's going to stay on because it is a little warm up here in my office. Also, my baby cat, Baki, is right next to me, and he tends to jump around like a little baby cow. So if you see that and it's distracting, I apologize, but he's going to do what he's going to do. He's a baby. And the last thing, I do not have kids. I am a single lady, and I feel like I've struggled enough to the point where I can talk about this, and I feel like that's good enough. So if there's something that you feel like, I don't know, if there's something that you feel like doesn't have me qualify to talk about this, that's cool. But I mean, truth be told, all of this has been trial and error, and that's, I think, what a lot of this boils down to. One other thing is that I have never dealt with WIC or food stamps, so I apologize, but I can't speak with specificity about those things. You might be able to apply some of these same ideas to those if you use them, but again, I've never personally had to use them, so I honestly can't talk about it because I can't relate. So just kind of take that for what it is. So first couple of things, and I'll kind of expand upon them, but I'm going to try to start like at the very beginning. So the very first thing is knowing how much you're going to be spending. And for me personally, this was something that was difficult to find out because when I first moved up here, I asked both of my parents about budgeting, and my dad is amazing when it comes to budgeting. Like, dude is the cheapest man alive, at least that I know of, aside from my brother. My mom is kind of like the opposite end of the spectrum. She's not like a super spender as much as she was, but she also doesn't really care as far as what she spends on food. So I didn't really have a whole lot to go off of because they both were telling me, oh yeah, I spend this amount, and it's honestly, it was way more than I was able to spend or willing to. So I guess that's really the first thing, is you really need to see what you're willing and able to spend on a monthly, weekly basis, and then you can just kind of go from there. For me, this was really trial and error, like I said. So I started off with $50 a week. And at that point in time, I did not know how to meal plan. Like, that was just not a thing in my house. We did not do that. The way that my house worked was, if you liked it and you wanted it, we bought it. And then hopefully you would eat it. I don't want to get into it because there was so much food waste when I was a kid. Oh my God. Tried not to, but it's just, it happened. So that being said, that was probably the first experience that I had with realizing that, oh, maybe $50 is not enough. And then I was like, but I literally can't spend any more. So I had to completely figure out what I was doing from there and sort of like rearrange things. So for example, I went from a, I guess, normal grocery store to just going to like Aldi or going to Walmart. And I guess Aldi technically counts as a normal grocery store, but yeah, basically I went from that to strictly going to like Walmart and any other cheaper place that I could find. Another thing that I did was I started learning how to meal plan and meal prep. Now, this was never, like I said, this was never something that I was taught. Like, nobody actually told me about this. I had to figure it out for myself. And the way that I learned was just by going here on YouTube and looking up videos. Now, I have to admit, I'm a huge sucker for like those large family type videos where it's like, the mom has like 15 kids and, she's scrimping and saving and like she bought all this stuff for like X amount of money and it only adds up to like $1.05 per meal per person or some crap like that. So that was always what I kind of looked at as like, that's actually really cool. And just kind of seeing how they did everything and making everything go a little bit further is what I truly enjoyed. I still enjoy it to this day. But meal planning and meal prepping is a huge, huge part. Another thing, and it kind of ties into that, is using your pantry, fridge, and freezer. Now, I've gotten better about this over the years. And I've also gotten to a point where I have the luxury of being able to completely sustain myself off of just what I have in my house. Was not able to do that up until a couple of years ago just because I did not have the extra money to devote to that sort of thing. But, I've made it more of a priority in the last couple of years, and I've also gotten higher paying jobs and how it goes. So, like I said, that ties into the meal planning and meal prep. The next thing, which also kind of ties into that, is DIY. So literally just do it yourself. So, for example, instead of buying my yogurt, I can make it. And again, all of this is dependent upon how much time you have, how much time you want to devote to things. But I learned how to make yogurt purely because I was stubborn and because I wanted to save money. So it actually ended up being a good thing, believe it or not. And truth be told, it's super easy, but this is not about making yogurt. Just a heads up though, you can make it in the crock pot or the Instant Pot. So just, heads up on that. But basically, like, making stuff yourself will help you to save more money. At one point, I was baking my own sandwich bread. And then I stopped that because I was like, I cannot eat this much bread in one sitting without it going bad. So, I mean, obviously, you have to know, like, what you're going to use. Like, obviously, if you have, maybe you have, like, little kids and they eat sandwiches all the time. Like, then it would be a good idea. But, like, for me, I live by myself. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to make my own sandwich bread unless I'm going to be eating that all the time. So just things to be cognizant of. All right, the next thing is knowing when to buy in bulk. Now, I used to think that buying in bulk would just save me all this money and, it was like the end all be all. Don't get me wrong, like I love to buy in bulk, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I don't mean just because I live by myself. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a lot of people in a couple of different ways. And basically what I mean by that is like, if you're going to be buying in bulk, make sure that it's stuff that you're actively going to be using. So like for me, I like to buy toilet paper and, stuff to clean, like, I don't know, like my bathrooms and eggs. Those are the things that I really like to buy in bulk. Everything else, not so much. Some of it depends on how often I use it. Some of it depends on the perishability. Again, it's going to look different for everybody just depending on what your diet is and what your lifestyle is like. But for the most part, I tend to stick to the things that I feel like are worth buying in bulk, if that makes sense. And it's going to look different for everybody. So it is what it is. All right. Kind of backing away from, well, not really. This kind of goes hand in hand with the bulk part, but I wrote save the splurges on here. So basically it's like, you don't always have to be buying all the snacks. You don't always have to be buying all the meat. Now, granted, if you have health issues and you need like iron or you need more protein, that's one thing. But there was a period of time where I basically lived off of chickpeas and hard-boiled eggs. I'm not saying that's the best idea, but I'm saying that I got it to work. Also, I did that during the pandemic too. So yeah, it's kind of nostalgic for me at this point, but I mean, basically, as long as you have something is better than nothing. So I don't know how many of you are moms out there or parents, whatever, but there's like a whole debate over breastfed versus just being fed in general. And they say fed is best. And I honestly think that applies to adults as well. As long as you're able to feed yourself with something and your body is getting what it needs at a bare minimum, like fed is best. So that's the next thing. All right, we're coming down to like the last couple of things. The next thing I would say is track it. So if you don't know where your money's going, it's always a good idea to track it. It can be very eye-opening. I actually tracked where I was spending all my money, and it made me never want to do it again. But it's okay, because at the end of the day, you know, I have to see that for myself, where everything is going, because if you don't know where it's going, then you're never going to get any better. So being able to track where your cash or money, if you use a debit, credit card, whatever, being able to track where it's going is definitely a really, really helpful thing to do. All right. One of the, I think, easier things, easier in a sense, is that there are apps that you can use. Now, I personally am not loyal to any store, mainly because they don't deserve my loyalty, but also because every store is different. They all have different suppliers and they all have different sales and stuff going on. So I like to use the app called Flipp, Flipp. And basically what you do is you put in your zip code and then it'll show you. You put in your zip code and then it'll show you like all the different stores and all their circulars that they have currently. So essentially what you're doing is you're able to see all the circulars all in one place. And they also have them for like department stores and places like Target, Walmart, whatever. Things to remember. Number one is that Walmart doesn't really have stuff on sale. And I think a lot of that is because they already claim to have like the lowest price. And like think of that how you will. I just thought of one other thing though that I'm going to talk about. Okay. So like I said, you can see all the different circulars and you can kind of match them up to see like what you want or whatever you need. Now, there are people out there who like to spend their time bouncing from store to store, trying to hit all those different circulars and all the different sales. There's nothing wrong with that, but there is a caveat. You will be spending A, more time, and B, more money, because you're going to be driving around to more places if you're doing that. So my recommendation is always pay attention to the circulars and try to find one that you really, really want. So perfect example is last week when I bought my groceries. I really wanted to get a lot of berries, and berries are in season right now. I'm going to talk about that in a minute as well. Berries are in season, so that means that there's most likely going to be sales on them, and you can get them for a better price than you can when they're out of season. So I think the store that I went to had it where it was like, if you buy 3 different things of whatever kind of berries, then they're $1.77 each. Whereas normally they're anywhere from like $3 to $6 each. So automatically I was like, yeah, I was like, of course I'm going to be buying 3 of these because then it makes it hella cheaper. So that's another thing that I want to mention is make sure that you know what is in season and what is not. This took me a while to learn. And I mean, for the most part, it's pretty simple. Like you have your citrus fruits in the winter, you have your berries and your melons and that sort of thing in the summer. And then everything else is kind of like in between. So honestly, you can Google it. I'm not going to go through the whole list with you guys, but that's generally how I tend to think is what's in season because that's going to get you, for the most part, a lower price. Also, it's going to taste better if it is in season. And a little side note is that if you've ever seen that documentary called Food Incorporated, what do they say in there? They say that the American supermarket has no seasons, and that's actually a bad thing. Like the fact that you're able to buy oranges in the middle of July is very much a bad thing. And I won't get into that, but I'm just saying, like, just make sure that you're aware of what's in season because that's really going to help. Something else that you can try to do is like, particularly in the summer months, you know, starting usually end of June, early July, you can go berry picking. So like there's a couple of different farms that are around me and I haven't had the time yet, but I was planning on like going berry picking. You know, a lot of them also have like veggies that you can pick yourself, or even if you go to like farmers markets, a lot of the time you can find better pricing. It really just depends on how willing you are to take the time to go do these things. So again, just take it how you will. Okay. Another thing is I want to talk about price per unit. Now, this is something that a lot of people do not pay attention to. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say I have this pencil, okay? So this pencil, and this is all make-believe, but this pencil retails for, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a number. I'm trying to think of a number right now. I don't know. I can't do this like in my head for whatever reason, but I'll be right back. Okay, so let's say for the sake of this video that a pack of 4 of these pencils costs $10. So that would technically mean that one pencil just by itself is $2.50. So that would be the price per unit, if that makes sense. Obviously, when you're dealing with food, it's going to be price per ounce. I mean, unless you don't live in the US and you use the metric system like we're supposed to. But that's kind of the idea. I mean, you can apply it to whatever. So basically, what you always want to look for is price per unit. And it's literally this simple. You take the price and you divide it by the unit. So, for example, if you have let's just say a box of cereal, because that shit's expensive now. If you have a box of cereal that's $10, which I think they're like, what, like $7 now? I don't know. Anyways, I digress. If you have a box of cereal that is $10 and there's only 10 ounces in there, guess what? How much are you paying per ounce? Just think about that. You would do 10 divided by 10. So you would literally be paying $1 per ounce. So the idea is that you want to find something that has a lower price per ounce. And you can apply this to stuff like cat litter, dog food, cat food, whatever. It doesn't just have to apply to your actual food, but I always like to relate it back to that because that's the way my brain works. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, here's another thing. There are some stores that will show you the price per unit, price per ounce, whatever. Walmart actually does this. If you look on their Mylars, which if you're not familiar with what a Mylar is, it's a price tag. If you look on their price tag, it'll show you what the price per unit is. And that way you don't have to do like any kind of math or whatever. There's a lot of other places where they don't do that. So that's usually where I'll just use the calculator on my phone. And sometimes I will actually sit there and I will try to figure out which one is cheaper, because 9 times out of 10, it's not the one that you think. So that's just something to be cognizant of, because it really does make a huge difference when you compare price per ounce or price per unit as opposed to what you're getting as a whole. There's a lot of times that I realized that I was basically being gypped, and I'm not trying to talk trash about any particular place, and I'm also not trying to say, oh, this place is better. But one other thing I will say about Walmart, which I do like about them, and it's why I keep going back, is that they actually will price things accordingly. So, for example, if you have like a family size box of pancake mix, price per ounce, it does work out to be cheaper than if you buy the smaller boxes. And a lot of other places where you go to buy food, it's the complete opposite. So again, just things to keep in mind. So one last thing I want to talk about, which this is kind of easy, but it does require discipline. And if you guys have watched my grocery shopping videos, you know I've been doing this for a couple of months now, and I am in love. Use a clicker. See? Use a clicker. It's super simple. So what you do is, let's say I only want to spend 20 bucks in the store. That's it. That is my hard budget. So what I do is I pick something up. Let's say I'm going to buy this pencil, and this pencil is $1. So there you go. There's $1. I put this in my cart, my basket, whatever. Let's say I want to buy this pen, and this pen is $1.37. It counts as 2. So basically what you're doing is you're accounting for like the tax, and you're basically rounding up so that you'll always be under budget, if that makes sense. Now, one other thing that I do want to talk about is be aware of where you live. I am very grateful. I never thought I would say this, but I'm very grateful to live in Pennsylvania, because here we do not have tax on food. Like if it's prepared, obviously, like if I go to McDonald's or Chick-fil-A, then yeah, there is tax on it. If I am buying food that, I think it's soda, they charge tax on soda, but like pretty much everything else is fair game. So basically I can go into a grocery store here or Walmart, and I can buy all my food, and I literally know that when I add it up, if it comes out to 25 bucks, I'm going to be spending most likely 25 bucks. Obviously, it was a little bit of buffer that I like to have there, but for the most part, like very, very helpful to have that. And when I say like know and be cognizant about where you live, just know how much your state's tax is on like sales tax. So for example, Pennsylvania is at 6%. And again, like I said, the food, depending on what it is, for the most part, does not get taxed. So that's another thing that can really help, is if you pay attention to that as well, you can kind of alter your budget to sort of, you know, work with that. Now, one other thing, and I know this isn't everybody's thing, and they don't all want to do this. Cash envelopes. Yep. Cash envelopes. So I hate Dave Ramsey with a burning, fiery passion. But I will say this. The dude, I'm pretty sure he came up with, you know, doing the whole cash envelope thing. So I'll give him credit for that. So if you're using cash, you can only use this. If I only have $3 for groceries, I can only use $3 for groceries. I can't use anything else. So it makes it so that you're not as tempted to spend. And I can honestly say I have saved more money this way than I have any other way. And that's coming from somebody who has ADHD. Like, it's bad. Trust me, it is bad. And like I said, there's nothing that says that you have to do any of this. I'm just telling you guys all the things that I've learned over the last, 7, almost 8 years. And these are the things that have helped me when I've been in a pinch, when I haven't been in a pinch. But really the biggest thing that is going to help you is staying consistent. Now, I've seen people do it other ways where it's like they just don't buy snacks. For me personally, I can't deal with that because I like to have a variety. So I always try to make sure I have plenty of snacks on hand, or at least just things that I want to eat. But again, it's kind of a personal thing as much as it is a universal sort of thing, if that makes sense. So anyways, I hope you guys found this video helpful. I know I talked about a lot. I tried to make this as clear and concise as possible, but if you have any questions, just leave them down in the comments below and I will try to help you out as much as possible. You can also find me on Instagram or TikTok if you want. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you all, and I'll talk to you all in my next video. Bye, guys.